last week's episode of the Epic Family Road Trip, we drove 765 kilometers down the west coast of New Zealand from Collingwood to the beautiful town of Wanaka. Along the way, we camped and hiked at some incredible places, including the Fox Glacier. After an amazing time in Wanaka, we drove an hour south to Queenstown, the adventure capital of the world. This drive took us over the highest main road in New Zealand, known as the Crown Range Road, which at its highest point reaches 1,121 meters. As we arrived in Queenstown, the sun was setting behind the surrounding mountains. We set up camp and made dinner while anticipating the next day's adventure of crossing a big item off of our bucket list, bungee jumping.
And I make my way back home.
The next morning, we headed to the world-famous Kawaro Bridge bungee jump.
Oh my goodness, that's so gross.
It makes it worse.
He just put his arms out and then fell.
Oh, that's great.
If someone pushes me, I'm gonna be so mad at them.
The jump sits 43 meters or 141 feet over the Kawaro River. This time, only Dad and Peter were brave enough to do the jump, so they got strapped in and prepared for the jump.
Getting ready to jump off a bridge, a perfectly good bridge.
This was an exhilarating experience, even for us who only watched while Dad and Peter actually jumped.
Just a split second where you free fall is just unbelievably fun.
Felt like a
It's
long
just you
time.
racing to the water and then...
After bungee jumping, we headed into beautiful Queenstown to explore the town and get lunch. Of course, for lunch, we had to try one of the world-famous Ferg burgers. We were excited to see what all the fuss was about since there was a line out the door and down the street.
Go to Queenstown, you gotta go to Ferg Burger. It's a real popular burger joint, and I'll show you why in just a minute.
After a delicious lunch at Ferg Burgers, my brothers and I wanted to do one of the adventure activities that Queenstown is famous for, the Skyline Luge. We rode up the Skyline gondola to the luge track, which provided breathtaking views of the town below. The luge was definitely a fun and unique experience. From Queenstown, we drove about 2 hours to the town of Te Anau, which is known as the gateway to Fiordland National Park. Once we arrived, we set up camp and booked a boat tour of the famous Milford Sound for the next day. Early the next morning, we boarded the shuttle bus that would take us to Milford Sound. The drive is about 2 hours long, and the entire time we sat awestruck at the views of the soaring mountains and lush valleys of Fiordland National Park. Once we arrived in Milford Sound, we boarded the boat that would take us into the fjord. The boat ride through the fjord was incredible. We were captivated by the extraordinary beauty of this magical place. We were lucky to enjoy seeing the fjord in all its glory on a clear and sunny day, since Milford Sound is known as one of the wettest places on Earth. It rains nearly 184 days of the year here, and the annual rainfall is 6,813 millimeters. However, rain or shine, Milford Sound is a sight to behold and an unforgettable experience of a lifetime. Milford Sound is a fjord that runs 15 kilometers inland from the Tasman Sea and is lined with sheer rocky cliffs and peaks that can reach over 1,200 meters. Powerful waterfalls plunge down the towering cliff faces into the fjord. One of the most iconic waterfalls in Milford Sound is the very powerful Stralen Falls, which is 155 meters high. We got to feel the power of Stralen Falls as the ship nosed up close and we felt the wind and spray. What an amazing experience. As we neared the end of the fjord, we sailed out onto the Tasman Sea to get a view from the outside. On the way back, we saw some of the wildlife that call Milford Sound home. There was a small colony of seals resting on the rocks near the shore. We then jumped back into the shuttle van for the 2-hour drive back to Teanau. On the way back, we stopped off at some beautiful viewpoints, rivers, waterfalls, and also got to see a kea bird up close. Keas are an alpine parrot found in the forested and mountainous regions of New Zealand's South Island. Along the way, we also got to refill our water bottles with the fresh water of a glacial river. After a good night's sleep in Teanau, we packed up our Jeep and drove back into Fiordland National Park to the Eglinton Valley and found a beautiful spot to set up camp. The Eglinton Valley is definitely on our list of top favorite places we have ever camped. We set up camp on the grassy field next to the beautiful Eglinton River. The valley is surrounded by soaring mountains and distant snow-capped peaks. Every day here was so peaceful, and it was hard to believe we were camped in such an epic place. Being next to the river, Dad got to practice his fly casting as the sun came up from behind the mountains and the mist drifted over the valley floor. Later in the afternoon, for fun, the boys braved the cold glacial waters of the Eglinton River with their bodyboards and jumped in to ride the rapids.
Keep going.
How do I open a new one without you?
We crashed the drone somewhere in the bush here. We've hiked quite a ways in the bush, crossed the river, and are taking a look in the forest. Pete was flying it and he said he saw it hit a tree, and we're at that tree and we don't see it. So we're gonna have to look. It might be caught in the trees, it might have landed in the water and flowed down stream or something, but hopefully we can find it. We found it. The only problem is it's way up there, but it looks like it's still working. The lights are still flashing and the GoPro's still there filming, so hopefully we can get up there and get it without hurting anyone or hurting ourselves.
Yes.
Be gentle and I'll try to catch it.
Ooh, I don't want to fling it way off, but
If you can get it safely, nothing's broken.
watch it.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Let it down slowly.
Yay! Nothing damaged.
Nothing broken.
Woo! Got stuck in the tree actually.
That's green.
Sweet.
Nice recovery. In a national park, way out in the middle of nowhere.
Before continuing south to Bluff, we wanted to do one of the famous hikes in the national park. So we headed out to do the Key Summit Trek. The Key Summit Trek is an 8-kilometer hike with a 1,390-foot elevation gain. This trail is perfect for a day hike as it is a fairly easy walk with very rewarding views at the top. Summit, we enjoyed the panoramic sweeping views of the surrounding mountains, wilderness, and Lake Marion, which is a beautiful alpine lake at the southern end of the Darren Mountains. that amazing hike, we drove about 2 hours south to the city of Invercargill. In Invercargill, we got a hotel room for the night since we had been sleeping in tents for nearly 100 days now, and it was getting a lot colder out the further south we got.
Still find it kind of strange that the farther south you go here, the colder it gets. Unlike in Canada or North America, where the farther north you go, the colder it gets. The farther south you go, the warmer it gets. But here, as we go south, we're getting closer to the South Pole. So we're in Invercargill and right near Bluff, which is the southernmost part of New Zealand. It's raining, almost snowing, not quite, but it just feels cold. So we kind of wimped out and got a hotel for the night, just to recharge our phones and just kind of reconnect with civilization. And tomorrow we'll hit the road again and get back to camping.
The next day we drove to the southernmost tip on mainland New Zealand, the town of Bluff. We stopped shortly in Bluff before hitting the road north up the east coast to Dunedin. Stay tuned for next week's episode of the Epic Family Road Trip, where we begin the drive back north of the South Island of New Zealand to explore and camp in some of the most spectacular places in the world.